On today's show, just how did we get to the point where we're having such a nightmare of a season? Gonna be breaking it all down on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 21 years, been covering the team on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for 6, and 4 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube to get us up to 8,000 subscribers before the end of 2025. And of course, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. And this episode is brought to you by none other than Game Time, the best place to get great deals on tickets before the start of an event. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Clipper Nation, I hope you're doing well on this, whatever day you're listening to, whether it's Wednesday or it's Thursday. But we got a lot to talk about. And this is also for people that are checking in to see, why has the Clippers season gone so horribly wrong so far? Why has our season gone so horribly wrong? So we're going to be talking about a couple of obvious things, then getting into the deeper culture issues and some things with our stars, and then just the basketball flaws of our team. But I think the most obvious thing is we were an older team last year, and we doubled down on old after seeing what the NBA Finals was last year. So, like, for us, we lost to the Denver Nuggets in 7 games, and the Denver Nuggets lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder in 7 games, and then the Thunder ended up winning the championship. However, so if you want to use the logic of like, oh, we weren't that far from beating the Nuggets, and the Nuggets weren't that far from beating the Thunder, we're not that far from a title. That's not how it works. Everything's matchup dependent. And when you look at the finals, the two teams involved in the finals, the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, you can see that they're on the younger side, right? And the Clippers were already on the older side. And it starts with the core. Your two best players are a 36-year-old James Harden, or I guess last year, a 35-year-old James Harden and a 33-year-old Kawhi. Now you're looking at a 36-year-old James Harden and a 34-year-old Kawhi. And Norman Powell was one of our better players, and he was over 30 years old as well. So what did we do in response? Well, we lost the series because of the lack of a backup center and not having a big power forward to match up with Aaron Gordon. And we probably could have gotten more from Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. And also Ty Lue made some fairly questionable decisions, or the coaching staff in general made some questionable decisions. So what did we do? We doubled down on old, and we thought, Brook Lopez is old, but he's better than Mo Bamba and Drew Eubanks. We thought Chris Paul is old, but he's better than Kevin Porter Jr. And we were wrong about those two things. We were very wrong about those two things. And it's not that Brook Lopez has been that much worse necessarily in Mo Bamba, but what it's done is it's taken minutes away from Ivica Zubac, who was playing more last season. And he hasn't been any better than Drew Eubanks and Mo Bamba, is the sad part. Because he's very slow of foot. He doesn't box out. Like, he doesn't rebound the basketball. He doesn't get off the ground, nor does he box out. And he hasn't necessarily hit a very high percentage of his threes so far this season, shooting just 35%. And he also doesn't always take the best shots. Sometimes he's feet behind the line and he's not even wide open. And because he can no longer attack a closeout or put the ball on the floor, when he pump fakes and guys jump at it, he doesn't know what to do. He just ends up shooting a 3 anyway with the defender in his rear view. So he's been really rough. And I'm really disappointed because I loved Brook Lopez. I thought for sure, I might have made the ridiculous comment that has aged terribly where I said before the season, hey, we have a backup center that was a starter on a playoff team last year, as if he was still a starting caliber player. But, especially in those first 2 games in Indiana and his series against the Bucks last year, he was exposed, but that was more so for me. he's a drop coverage big playing against Miles Turner, who was hitting his pick and pop threes. And then when they tried to switch that action, you can't have Brook Lopez guarding Tyrese Halliburton. He's not a switchable big. So there's a lot of flaws with Brook Lopez now, and he's on his way out. He's on the older side. And then Chris Paul. Chris Paul obviously was a disaster situation, and I'm probably going to have another episode following up because there just keeps on being news coming out of Chris Paul and the departure and what happened. And, it's the Clippers are in the news. I got to talk about it. So, and like, what else am I going to talk about? How bad this team is? I've done like so many episodes on that. Anyway, but like Chris Paul, we thought he would be better than KPJ, and he wasn't. Defensively is where the drop-off was drastic. KPJ was still pretty active defensively. His effort level on that end was high, and he has a certain level of athleticism at that stage of his career that obviously CP3 being 40 doesn't have. And beyond that, Chris Paul, he can't slide his feet with good guards anymore. In transition, when guys are coming downhill against him, it's just forget about it. He's a cone. And then when he's switched on to bigger guys, he used to be able to make some plays, but, he's slower, older, less athletic. He's not a positive on that end of the floor. However, we didn't necessarily get him for that end of the floor, but what's been hard to watch is that he wasn't good offensively. He was struggling to just bring the ball across half court with ball pressure on him, which is wild to say about Chris Paul because he's one of the best ball handlers that I've ever seen in my life. And I study the old game. Now, of course, dribbling in different eras is relative to the rules and what they allow. But, in his time, Chris Paul is one of the best ball handlers there is. So to me, he's one of the best ball handlers of all time. And to see him like pick up his dribble and turn his back like he's a bigger dude just showed, he wasn't the same player anymore. And then he's not making shots that he's made his entire career. And when teams switch 1 through 5, he can't get by the big man. So, for those basketball reasons, those two signings really hurt us in terms of making our already old team older. And then we whiffed on a couple of things, Bradley Beal and John Collins in particular. Bradley Beal, I was never a huge fan of in terms of getting him at this stage of his career because of the injury concerns, but also because he hasn't shown a level of seriousness that if we want to take this team to the next level, I don't think he's shown since John Wall was around, really. Even though he was averaging 30 points in 2020 and 2021, those Wizards teams weren't that great for a reason. There's two sides of the ball, and Bradley Beal's effort on that end of the floor has been very questionable since John Wall has left DC. So getting him, I think it was just a replacement for Norman Powell, which brings us to the next thing. So obviously Bradley Beal was expected to be a bigger part of this team, and then he only played 8 games, 9 games? Let's check. 6 games. And then John Collins, he's probably been the most disappointing because we had the highest expectations for him. And I think the biggest thing that has been a problem with John Collins is the lack of 2 things: rebounding and knocking down the 3 ball. He shot 40% from 3 last year, and this season he's shooting 29. We thought we weren't taking that big of a spacing hit, but it's been a huge damper to our offense for him to not knock down the open threes that we thought we were getting with him. Because we've also taken a defensive downgrade as opposed to having Derek Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn in the starting lineup last year. And then in addition to that, he's only gotten, he averages 4.5 rebounds a game, which is less than James Harden. And I know James Harden's always has been a pretty solid rebounder. That's just inexcusable given what we got him for. So in that regard, and then not to mention the low IQ things you see from John Collins when it comes to not talking on defense, not knowing if we're switching or staying on certain coverages, that kind of stuff. He's frequently involved with defensive miscommunications. I forget which game it was, but just a total lack of, just losing sight of your man because you're too stuck watching the ball. And some dude just backdoored him. And it was a crucial possession in the game. I think it might have been the Laker game, actually, that we lost on their floor. So John Collins has been disappointing. So when you put it together, what you have is a team that's only gotten older in a young team's league and whiffed on all their offseason signings and lost Norman Powell, who was, if you put the entire season together, at worst, our third best player behind Ivica Zubac and James Harden. Because Kawhi, you can't give him that with 37 games played. So that also, in addition to Kawhi being injured early on in the season, like that didn't help either because we went 2-8 without him. So that's the moral of the story. If we've only doubled down on old, which is definitely a Lawrence Frank issue, and then we whiffed on all our offseason additions. John Collins, I still have hope that he can turn his shooting around a little bit. But hey, man, I'm checking my watch. I'm checking my calendar. I don't have a watch, but we've played 26 games at this point. And John Collins has played all of them. He's gotten in the starting lineup like we asked as fans, and he hasn't been that good. Hasn't been that good. Anyway, coming up, going to be talking about a bigger culture issue and taking a look at our big three. I got to tell you a little something about Skims. When Skims announced they were making underwear for men, the reaction made perfect sense. People have been talking about Skims comfort for years. Most guys, though, stick to whatever they've been buying since college. The same fits, the same waistbands that roll, and a whole lot of settling. Skims Men's changes that. One upgrade, and it's obvious why everyone's been talking. They're designed to feel good, fit right, and actually stay put. No slipping, no sagging, no adjusting. Just genuinely great underwear that makes you feel confident and comfortable. I honestly didn't expect underwear to be a game changer, but Skims completely surprised me. Shop Skims Men's now at skims.com. And when you place your order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select our show from the drop-down to let them know we sent you. Plus, the Skims holiday shop is open. So if you're looking for the perfect gift this season, Skims has you covered. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Clippers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonclippers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, let's talk about the culture of this team and our stars. Honestly, I think the two go hand in hand, but let's talk about our stars, right? Has Kawhi Leonard been good enough? It depends what standard you're holding him to, right? He's been on a minutes restriction for a good amount of these games where he's had to be taken out in the middle of the fourth quarter of a close game, and those have severely dampened our chances of winning certain games. There's no denying that, and I'm not necessarily putting that on him. As far as how he looks, I think he looks like we saw him last year in the playoffs. He hasn't had some crazy heater, but he's averaging 25, 6, and 3 to go along with 2 steals on 49, 37, 97 splits. So he's almost 50, 40, 90 and 25 points a night with solid defense. But there is a real issue closing games. And I talked about the minutes restriction thing. That's relevant. But late in games, we haven't been able, besides that Pelicans game and the Blazers game early on in the season before he got injured, he hasn't really brought us home in close games. He's looked like, and this has been consistent throughout his tenure with the Clippers, but felt like he has lost his legs, late in the game, and shots are short. And there's another big problem with Kawhi being your best player, if he is your best player, and that is that he cannot consistently get by his man. And it's been that way for 3 years now, maybe 4 years. I've been mentioning it throughout the years that I've been the host of this show. Kawhi Leonard, when he's isolated with somebody, he does not really blow by them. The best he can do is get them on his hip. And that hurts when you're not getting paint touches. You're not getting to the free throw line, So has Kawhi Leonard been good enough? You can argue he has. I think the minutes restriction has been bad, but is he good enough to be the best player on a championship team anymore? I think we saw very clearly last year, no, but everybody says, oh, he just needs more shooters. He just needs more shooters. He definitely needs some more shooters, but I still don't think he's good enough to be the #1 option. And he's also unreliable health-wise. That's the biggest problem. So I'll just say this. Kawhi's really good still. Kawhi's been good. Good enough to be a great team? No. No, no, no. But is a lot of it his fault? No. It's bad luck. The injuries again. It's just, he played, we were 3-3 with him. We had 2 disappointing losses, one to Utah and one to Miami. But then we go 2-8 without him. That can really hurt. So, anyway, then we got to go to James Harden. James Harden has been pretty damn good given what you expect from him. 26 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and a steal a game on the season on 44, 38, 88.5 splits. To be honest with you, I think James Harden's been good enough. I think that he's been bad in certain games that we've lost, like more at fault in games that we've lost and people want to give him credit for, like turning the ball over and not playing defense. But everything that we've seen from James Harden this season is, in terms of the negative, is what we expect and know from James. There's no reason why he needs to be carrying this much weight. And a large reason why he's had to is because the Chris Paul addition worked out so horribly that he's not even on the team anymore. And then Bogey getting hurt also hurts the ball handling aspect. So I think James has honestly been good enough. He's been honestly 20. I mean, he's had to carry more than he's had to. That's the truth. But the biggest problem of the 3 that's been regression, or the biggest player that has regressed, is Zoo. And I'm a big Zoo fan, but it doesn't matter. I have to be honest. Zoo, 26 games played, which is all our games, started every single one. And he's averaging 16 points and 11.5 boards to go along with 2.5 assists on 61% from the field and 70 from the foul line. Now, if you want to compare that to what he averaged last year, well, he's averaging now the same amount of minutes as last year, 32.8 on the dot. So we've gotten that back since we've kind of taken Brook Lopez out of the rotation. We've gotten him back to averaging 33 minutes a night. He's shooting 2% worse than last season. He's shooting 4% better from the free throw line, which you like to see. He's averaging 1 less rebound a game, went from 12.6 to 11.5. He's averaging less assists from 2.7 to 2.5. And he's averaging less points from 16.8 to 16. And we've been worse. We've gotten Norman Powell is no longer on our team. There's no excuse for that. I thought because we got Bradley Beal, John Collins, Chris Paul, that Zubac wouldn't be as used. Honestly, he's been as used, but there's a lot of reasons why Zoo's not having as good of a season. The first one is his own mentality and approach to every single game. I always say with Zoo, it's very, very mental, because there's a player in there that in certain games looks like he is dominant. He's going to dunk the ball when he's around the rim. He's being very assertive body language wise in terms of, I want the ball. I want to be aggressive against my defender, and even on the defensive end, and the way he grabs rebounds. Then there's this other guy that plays soft, brings the ball down low, complains on every single call. And I will admit he gets the worst whistle in the league, or one of the worst whistles in the league. But the way he's kind of just backed down in the face of physicality this year has not been what you want to see as a Clipper fan. And defensively, I think our point of attack defense has gotten worse, but I also feel like his rim deterrence hasn't been as good as last season as well. And I don't have necessarily proof, or I'm just going off my eye test on that one. So let me know what you think in the comments. Has Zoo's rim deterrence been worse? Because I think our point of attack defense has definitely gotten worse, but it's been just even beyond that to some degree. And then now he's getting guarded like a good player. Now everybody knows that Ivica Zubac is great, and he wants to spin over that left shoulder and get to his right-hand jump hook. So what have teams been doing? Angling him to go baseline and then double teaming with the baseline guy, not double teaming from the top. Because he actually makes some pretty decent passes out of double teams from the top or when they double him from the top. But when they double him baseline after he spins, he gets caught under the basket. And the only reason why I picked up that observation is because I watched all his post-ups on Synergy. That's the only reason why. Shout out to Locked On for letting me use Synergy. But that's a scheme thing. That's very specific, but it matters, because it's giving people know about Zoo, and he hasn't really responded to that kind of attention very well yet. Then the most obvious reason that really pisses me off is that I don't think this team empowers Ivica Zubac at all. I don't think we look to get him the ball enough. I don't think he even demands the ball enough. And I don't think as a coaching staff for years, we've looked to get him involved enough. That is my opinion. And I think a lot of Clipper fans share that. But I do believe that Zoo himself has not been good enough this year. And it's really disappointing because he's kind of our guy, you know? He's the guy that we felt was the best part of our organization, you know, we had going for us. Younger player, approaching his prime, been with us, you know, longest tenured Clipper, been with us since midway through the 2018-19 season. Last year we were saying, and it was factual in my opinion at the time, he's a top 5 center in basketball. At worst, maybe number 6. And this season, he hasn't really been in that conversation. And when you look at, you know, his post-ups, it's been average in terms of the PPP rating. We get less than a point per possession with him posting up. So, although, you know what? Actually, I'm going to change. I looked at a different stat just now. If you include post-ups where he has to pass, which is a lot of possessions given that he's getting doubled a lot, 54 more possessions where he's getting forced to pass than just shooting in the post. We actually have a good PPP rating now, and it was a slightly above average a couple of weeks ago when I checked it last. So it sounds like Zoo is trending in the right direction in terms of what he's doing in the post and what it's getting for our team. But also, you have to understand PPP, points per possession, is also determined on the guys hitting shots. So I'm not seeing all the possessions. And guys have definitely not been hitting shots, which has encouraged guys to double team him more, which is something else I haven't even mentioned. So that's been a problem as well. But overall, the biggest disappointment of the big 3 has been Zoo. And culturally, let's talk about that for a sec. Kawhi Leonard, he's not a vocal leader. We know this. He's a lead by example guy. But like, I don't know, what's the example right now? He works hard. We all know he does. But the you know, just going with the flow kind of thing, the quiet thing, it's tiresome for me. And it's tiresome for a lot of fans that want more urgency, because James Harden's nonchalant. He's always been that like that. He's a nonchalant leader. He's great with bigs. He's more of a leader than Kawhi in terms of the vocal aspect. But you have to question James Harden's effort sometimes watching him play. And it's, you know, it's like the best deal in the world to some degree is where you get to control the offense, and then defensively you're not expected to do much at all. And you're not held to the same standards as everyone else because your offense is so good. So, you know, that's all I have to say about that. But coming up, going to look at more flaws with the team that demonstrate why we've, you know, been so bad. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. The World Cup is the greatest sporting event in the history of mankind, and I believe that wholeheartedly. I'm not just saying that because this is an ad. After NBA, before Game 7, the greatest words in team sports are World Cup. And lucky for us, the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting World Cup tickets is a drag. I'm in a random selection draw right now, but that's why Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drop in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Game Time. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do, locking in on every opening, beating your personal record, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All right. So, and by the way, if you're wondering, okay, we got old players. How can we fix that? I don't know. We've been trying to play the kids. I think we could play Yannick, though. It's time to start playing Yannick. Because if we whiffed on our offseason signings, We need Yannick. And also Derek Jones Jr. being hurt has really hurt us. Chris Dunn has also gambled way more on defense this season, and that's really hurt us too. And can the big three play better? I think the Kawhi getting off the minutes restriction definitely helps. But I don't know why we changed the rotation last game when it was actually working out pretty well against Minnesota and Houston. We just kind of ran out of gas against good teams, by the way. And then, I mean, what can we do? For me with Zoo, it's just get him the ball more, but guys got to make shots to open it up for him. Okay, as far as other flaws, though, the three-point shooting, that's a major issue. You know, first, I actually want to talk about our defense. We're 26th in the league in defensive rating compared to 3rd last year. Chris Dunn gambling more is a big part of that. Us getting older makes us worse in transition because the thing is, last year, right? Last year, we were, as I said, 3rd in defensive rating. In offensive rating, we were middle of the pack. This year, we're 20th, right? Last season, 15th. That makes a difference because when we miss shots now, we are in a much worse situation because we don't have the athletes like even KPJ and Mo Bamba or even, for example, or even Ben Simmons. We actually get back. Chris Paul and Brook Lopez, like these guys do not get back. Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, especially James Harden, even Ivica Zubac, these guys lag to get down the floor. So every time we miss, it's much more detrimental now. And also, there's one thing I want to say just in the context of this season. We're scared to close out a lot of times because we're afraid to get blown by. But I also think a lot of teams have had outlier shooting games against us, like Bam Adebayo going crazy from 3 and having his most threes in a game, or Cam Spencer having a career high. Like there's been a lot of games like that where we've just had bad luck. And of course, the Clippers historically are just a bad luck franchise. But you know, the shooting has been crazy from teams against us. But of course, we can still look at us. And then we don't rebound. If we don't rebound, then like last year, we had the highest defensive rebounding percentage in the league. This year, 21st. 21st. That makes a huge difference because you're giving people another chance to score. I mean, so that's been a disaster. And then when you want to talk about our three-point shooting. So what's the fix to that? Box out. But no one does that in the NBA. So like you can't ask for that, I guess. See, this is why I coach, because I can't get this stressed about an NBA team. It's unacceptable in my opinion. And then our three-point percentage is 20th in the league. Last year, we were much higher in terms of percentage, 7th. So there you go. And then when you want to talk about, well, who's been bricking? Who's been bricking? Let's find out. Let's find out who's been bricking. I already talked about John Collins, 26%. Brook Lopez, 35%. Nico's still at 38%. James Harden, 38%. Kawhi, 37%. Beal's one of our best shooters. He's been injured. And yeah, losing Norman Powell and his high volume of threes, that is a real problem. Chris Dunn has actually shot better from 3, 37% this year. Bogey, 36%. And he went on a heater when we got him last year after his rough start. As a Clipper, he started going crazy from 3. Could really use that. Kobe Sanders has been playing. He's shooting 35% from 3. Brook Lopez, 35%. Derek, 35%. Chris Paul, 33%. We've given Cam Christie some burn. He's not shot well, 31%. John Collins, 29%. We've given Kobe Brown burn, 24%. So only 3 regular rotation players, Nico, James, and Kawhi, are shooting 37% or higher. Actually, Chris Dunn, if you round up, which is amazing. But 2 of those guys are usually creating. So the guys that are catching and shooting are not actually hitting. And a lot of our problems will be mitigated if we can just knock down open threes, because then our defense gets set. And I truly believe our half-court defense is not that horrendous. In transition, we're god-awful. And we don't end possessions with rebounds, partially because we're less athletic than these teams. So they know to, crash. And then our second half issues. We look like a good team in the first half of a lot of recent games, but then we run out of gas in the second half because too much is on older guys to lead. So if you wanted to know what's going on with the Clippers, why it's been such a nightmare season, then of course the Chris Paul thing, that's why. Can it turn around? I don't know. I don't see any evidence. Last game, it felt like Ty Lue just quit. Like with that, those rotations were barbaric to have 2 of our big 3 out right now the way that we've been playing this season. We can't do James Harden with total bench. And if we do, it can't be James Harden with a bunch of guys that are 6'7" and under. What are you thinking? So I don't know. I was saying as of like 2 games ago that we can still make the plan. Lawrence Frank, according to what I heard about his meeting with the swell members, thinks we can still make the plan. I think we might be able to still make the plan. Let's see how far we're back. But who cares, in my opinion? It's like, who cares about the plan? Oh my God, we're 4.5 games below the 10th seed. Should I do an episode that, by the way, start giving me episode suggestions. Should I do an episode about how we can turn it around? Should I do an episode about how we should blow this up? Should I do an episode about how Lawrence Frank has put us in the dirt? I don't know. These are all ideas. But I can't say that the episodes are going to have the most positive tone right now. And to be honest with you, I don't know how a lot of fans feel. I think every fan is different. But it seems like a lot of fans want the real right now. They want the organization to be called out. They want people held accountable because positivity, sunshine, and roses. Like, how could we be positive right now? We're the most disappointing team in the NBA, and we had expectations to be better than last year. This is the most disappointing season in the history of the Clippers right now, by far. 2023, I said before, this is 10 times worse. So, I don't know, more content to come. Just don't expect sunshine and roses. Now, let me ask you in the comments, do you want sunshine and roses, or do you like me talking like this? I want to know, because all that I care about is the fans. I just think the fans deserve better than this nonsense. And it's nonsense. So coming up in the future episodes, how about a little OKC tomorrow? You excited for that today? If you're listening on Thursday, you excited for OKC? I'm excited for us to have a lot of people not part of the Clippers organization anymore. That's what I'm excited for. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, and NBA content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please subscribe to get us up to 8,000 subscribers before the end of 2025. And we've got 14 days left, ladies and gentlemen. So please, let's make that happen. The age-old proverb continues. By the way, that Everydayer Club, that's real. Ad-free. If you don't like the ads, Everydayer Club. And we can join a Discord. You can chat with me, chat with the fans, chat with the listeners. Come on now. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.